Have you ever wondered how your sales performance compares against your competitors and peers? The B2B Sales Benchmark Report provides the definitive guide to what success looks like in 2021. See how you compare in terms of win rate, sales cycle, average deal value, relationships, and engagement. You can see the results and get the full report at ebster.com/B2B-sales-benchmarks. This is Sales Ops Demystified, the #1 most downloaded podcast in sales operations. We invite the brightest minds in sales operations onto the show to deconstruct the why, what, and how behind rep productivity, forecasting, metrics, and all things revenue. This podcast is brought to you by Ebster, the leading customer engagement platform for Salesforce. Hello, and welcome to another very special episode of the Sales Ops Demystified podcast. Today, we're joined by Taimoor Tariq, who, interestingly, has been in the sales ops game for 7 years. Recently took a sabbatical out of sales operations into a role in customer experience, but then just 7 months into that sabbatical came right back. So he's back. He's back in the team. Taimoor, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I want to kick off by understanding first how you 7 years ago moved into sales operations, and then if you could also cover why you decided to take that sabbatical and then why you decided to come back.
Yeah, sure. So I think, like most people, I think no one actually starts off their career in sales ops. This is something they usually stumble into. I think a similar thing happened to me as well. I started off my career in sales. I did that for almost a year. I was working at a company in Canada called Infotech. And at that moment, they were going through this transition of remodeling their sales model as well as changing their go-to-market strategy. And at that moment, they needed some help in terms of someone to come in assistance into the go-to-market strategy, doing some analysis, and there was this need. And I think I was very lucky at that time to have a manager who really pushed me towards that role. So starting off, I was doing it more on a part-time basis while still doing my sales job, looking at, let's say, analysis on your conversion rates, helping out building out territory models, and eventually that moved into a full-time role. And that was my move into the world of sales ops. And I think, it's been an awesome journey so far. And that's the rest is history. And
you decided to move out of sales operations in 2019.
So I would say in my journey in sales operations went through different phases where I started after, let's say, doing reporting and analytics, I moved into more of, a Salesforce admin role where I really got technical, learned Salesforce in and out, started looking after tech stacks. And then, when my manager at Achievers left, there was an opening for a sales ops manager. So I started getting this whole holistic view. And I think after spending that much time in sales ops, every day you're looking at Salesforce. First thing you do is log in, go to work, open Salesforce. And I think at that moment, I was looking to see, hey, is there something else out there that, I'm good at or, I should be exploring? And an opportunity came up to move to Boston and try something in the customer experience world. I hadn't done it before. And yeah, I thought it was a great opportunity for me to jump. So that's how I kind of transitioned out to the world of sales ops. And once I was there, I would say I kept remembering, hey, this is something that is still my true calling. It's only when you move out of something, you realize, hey, how it's in your genes. It's part of you. And it's so hard to take that out from you. And I I started missing that more. And that's how I kind of found my next role here at Sellics, where I am the head of revenue operations for them.
Got it. I mean, so logging into Salesforce every day and not enjoying, I can't imagine how you wouldn't enjoy that. So let's moved to today, head of revenue ops at Sellics. Can you share quickly how many sales reps you're responsible for and how many people are in the rev ops team?
Yeah, so the way we, let's say, structure the RevOps teams is you have marketing ops, sales ops, and CS ops. So those are the three pillars. In terms of, let's say, salespeople, we are around 10, and we have in the US and EMEA altogether, and then we have around 6 CSMs as well.
Got it. And so it's quite interesting, right? Because in sales and CS, you have one-to-one interaction between a rep and a customer. In marketing, you have one-to-many. So I guess your function is not responsible for, say, working directly with the email marketing manager, right? You're more supporting the CS reps and the sales reps.
Correct. And I think where, let's say, the marketing piece comes in is the marketing automation is still being the owner of the marketing automation tool, and the lead flow that comes from what marketing works for the demand that they generate, making sure the process flows smoothly to the sales. It's only the handoff between marketing and sales.
Got it. And have Sellics given you somebody else in your team to help you with these three departments?
So right now, when I joined, we already had a sales ops analyst. So he's still on my team. Right now, I'm hiring for a marketing operations manager. And at the same time, we have someone who works part-time in the CS ops. In a way, they're a CSM, but also helps out on the operational side.
So 2.5 resources right now in RevOps, but soon to be 3.5. If you share the job spec, if you have one for the marketing ops role, we can put it in the blog post below this episode. So hopefully maybe generate some leads.
That would be awesome.
Cool. Okay. Can you, because you haven't been at Sellics for that long, but could you share something that you have done or the RevOps team have done that has significantly boosted productivity, either the sales reps or the support reps?
So I would say it's like you said, I've only been there for 3 months, so there's a lot of work that still needs to get done. I think one of the things that we did, when I came in, one of the things we noticed was there was definitely the link between marketing and sales was broken, in the sense of there's not a lot of alignment between the numbers, right? So when you talk about marketing was reporting something else, and sales was not seeing those numbers, right? They were reporting, hey, we're generating X amount of leads, and sales was not getting the same results, right? So there was this miscommunication. So I think the first step was just aligning on those definitions. Hey, what is a qualified lead? What is an MQL? What is, what's the standardized process? Getting everybody on the same page. So that was, I think, the first step. The second thing, which I think we did pretty well, is having a standardized lead to opportunity process. And I think in our case, we have a team that's based in the US and a team that's based in EMEA. Both of them were following their different processes, doing their own little thing. And now I think fortunately we have a standardized process where we know, hey, every time a lead comes in, what's happening with it. We have standardized, let's say, statuses that they need to move to. They get dispositioned if they're not getting worked. Otherwise we had let's say 90% of our leads were in the status of open. Right? What does that even mean? So, having those standardized processes and then building automation on top of it, which is if, let's say, our lead is in working. So, for example, if you have a lead which is assigned to a rep, the first moment they, let's say, send out an email or a call, it already moved into status of working. Now, if they stop working that lead after a little while, let's say after 10 days or 15 days, it will automatically get dispositioned. If it's not touched, it won't remain the same status. So these little automation that we started build, that really, I think, gives everybody much more visibility into what's really happening on the top of the funnel.
Got it. So it kind of sounds like you came in and you've been adding a lot of order to the chaos.
Isn't that what revenue operations, sales operations is supposed to do?
I think you're right. Cool. Now, question about the current clients. I assume that everybody in the team has now been pushed to remote work.
Yeah.
And so focusing on the sales guys, is there anything that you're doing differently, like different tools or different processes you're doing to ensure that they are still fully equipped to do their job working from home?
I think that's a very interesting question. I think in a way we're already set up to support that remote work, and I think what has really done is making sure your cadences of week regular check-ins has gone up, And I think personally for me, I feel like it's right now, even though, some people are saying, hey, some people feel more productive. Personally, I feel like we are spending more time talking to each other, and it's not really about having that empathy. It's, every sales call that I've been on the other side, where, it's the first 10 minutes is not talking about work. It's talking about, making sure we remain that human connection. And I think that's also translating into our work conversations as well. In terms of productivity itself, I think it comes down to having those good standardized reporting and dashboards where everybody, there's a shared accountability. And as long as you put, let's say, the right goals in front of people, they are going to, make the right decisions in order to hit those goals.
Got it. And then I have a slightly different question now on the metrics. 7 years in sales ops, what would you say has been your most effective sales metric to measure?
My view on this is you cannot run a business just by looking at one metric, right?
Agreed.
So, like what I mean by that is, let's say, if you look at new business, right, new acquisition, revenue is the most important metric, right? And but that's a lagging indicator. In order to actually get, and it can be actually, let's say, broken down into a simple equation, right? So for us, like the way I look at it is number of opportunity created times your average win rate and times your average selling price. Your average selling price is over the period of time is going to be consistent. Your win rate over a period of time also going to be consistent. So the only variable which I feel is the most important one is the number of new opportunities generated. Right. So for me, like coming back to this question, I feel if you're measuring for the health of your growth of your business, I think the most important metric that you should be measuring should be the number of new opportunities generated.
And that's the leading indicator versus that you should be measuring for revenue is obviously the lagging indicator.
Yes.
And so you're basically saying that that's the most easy to improve, because to improve the win rate, you might have to do some drastic changes, and to increase the deal size, you might have to like change some product.
Exactly. Right. And it's also because it's a leading indicator, it's something you can take action today. Right?
Yeah. So are you targeting all of the 10 reps on number of new ops in a month?
I think it's more about it starts with, a cultural shift in terms of, making sure the leaders, the managers of the reps actually, believe in this number. And, they think this is important as well. So that, it comes from top down, where, you have as a company a goal of how many new opportunities you should be creating per month. And then you have it divided by team. And then, you have it divided by reps as well. So so like once you have that top-down approach, then you have that visibility in terms of how each individual rep is doing against that number.
You mentioned about getting the managers to believe in the metric. Did you have to do that when you joined? Or do you have any tips on how you would be able to get managers to believe in the metric?
It's not an easy process. It's definitely not an easy process. And I think it takes effort. It takes empathy in terms of understanding, like people might have different view. It's, they might be doing certain things for a long period of time. And it takes time to actually convince them, or, not even convince, have that conversation first about why what you feel is their, let's say, are important metrics and what they feel. And then it becomes a negotiation. Right? It's like making sure you hear what they're saying, but also, coming like it should not be me telling them, hey, we should be running a business this way, but collectively agreeing on what those metrics should be. Right? And so that's why it's more of a back and forth conversation.
Final question: who has influenced or inspired you the most in sales operations?
Great question. I think over, let's say, my whole career, there have been multiple people, and I feel like I've learned so much from so many people I work with. Early in my career, I would say there was a gentleman named Paul Ironside. He was my mentor, who actually at Infotech, he was hired as a consultant. And I think he really taught me how to think about business in especially sales in a very simplified manner, in terms of, how do you take a complex business and simplify it. So the whole idea of simplification I kind of learned from him. when I moved over to like Achievers, I think Matt Maglia was my manager at that time. Like he was the manager of sales ops at the time. And I think what I learned from him was really about how to actually deal with different stakeholders, how to, talk to the CRO, how to talk to head of sales, head of marketing, and, have this conversation, get people aligned. So those interpersonal skills, I definitely learned from him. When it comes to, let's say, now, who do I like read a lot of content from? There's a gentleman named Marcus Havoc, out of Funnel Cake. I think his content is brilliant. In terms of stuff he writes about revenue frameworks, I've like learned so much from his content, implemented so much things he have talked about. So like that's someone I think like is producing great content, and I've told him that multiple times too.
Yeah, a couple of people have mentioned Marco. I need to try and get him on the show, don't I?
Yep.
And then just to catch the names of the other two, just so the listeners hear, it was Paul. What was Paul's surname?
Paul Ironside.
Ironside. Cool. And then the second name I got was Matt Tremaglia.
Matt Tremaglia.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, awesome. Well, I've got a page full of notes here. Let me just quickly share a couple of things that I pulled out that I enjoyed. I think that your definition of sales or revenue ops, I don't think that's like planned or stored in your head, but I think it was very true in that this function is here to streamline this process and bring order to the chaos. I really like the point you're making about now with remote sales calls, that actually we're focused more on communicating as people, both in external sales calls, but also in internal conversations. And then the leading metric, I thought was interesting, but then more importantly, how you actually get people internally to believe in that metric, which you think is so important to the success of the business. So Taimoor, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sales Ops Demystified podcast. If you are listening on a podcast listening application, then please subscribe, rate, and review. And if you have any questions about the show, if you know a guest, or if you have any questions about sales operations, just hit me up at tomhunt@ebster.com. That's tomhunt@ebster.com.